Hey everyone, my name's Andy. My channel's Finding Value. If you like making money, subscribe to the channel. I go over a lot of commodity or undervalued sectors that we could have look at for potential investments. This one in particular is uranium. I think uranium is an exceptional deal here I'm going to just go over the ratio off the top of my head. It's about 60 pounds to 1 ounce gold. That is an anomaly in comparison to history. So I like covering uranium a lot because of that anomaly and because we're so low off of its highs that a lot of these companies, they are bottoming. They're putting in bottoming processes, some of them have already bottomed and are starting to come back up. So I think it's a very good sector to look at. And I keep cost averaging into it because of its strong leverage during commodity bull markets and where the value is in relationship to history. It is off the charts anomaly right now. So let's dive in to the uranium sector. I'm very much a bull on this sector. And a couple of things I want to reiterate are long-term charts. So bigger patterns mean bigger moves. We're looking for momentum changes. We're looking for obviously investment opportunities. And short-term price movements can still radically move up and down and not affect the big long-term momentum changes and patterns. So we can see a 40 or 50% kind of sharp move on a short term, but it's not going to affect a decade-long big momentum chart pattern move. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that. So I'm going to look at some of these. This one's kind of zoomed in on uranium, North Shore Global Uranium, but I'm going to take a lot of them. I'm going to take a big picture view. And the big picture view is when you make big money, but you have to be patient. These aren't, I'm going to make a bunch of money in a month or two. I'm looking for 5, 10, 15, 20 year potential investments where they are life-changing investments. They're not 100 or 200% gains. I'm looking for 10 baggers, 20 baggers, 30, 40, 50, 100 baggers. That's what I'm looking for. So uranium, North Shore Global Uranium here. It's looking okay. We've pulled up. We got this stair-step pattern. It is contracting a little bit. See how this move is larger than this move, which is larger than this move. So the buyers are starting to equal the sellers at these higher prices up here. What it does, I'm not exactly sure because it depends on the price of uranium. Uranium is really cheap. So I think it's being held back by the price of uranium at this time. If the price of uranium goes nowhere, this may go sideways or pull back a little bit. But if uranium were to do a launch, this is going to launch, I think. So it's difficult to say this is what I think it's going to do because it's dependent on many things. If we see high rates of inflation, if uranium goes way up, if a overall stock market sells off real hard, these things want to twist and pull and bend and at this uranium mining sector. So it's highly dependent on a lot of things. But right now, it looks like it may relax for a little bit, depending on what uranium does. So URG, this one, we got this downtrend here line that broke, and it's kind of just hanging out, waiting. It's waiting. It's people are accumulating it. We've got a bunch of volume here. It is very low historically if you were to look way back. But it's just hanging out right now. It's hanging out. It can go, if uranium goes up, I think it's going to go up. If the energy market sector goes up, this may get dragged up with it. So a lot of factors are pulling and pushing on these small companies in this small sector. Here's UU. We've got this nice kind of U bowl-shaped pattern forming. Lots of accumulation here. Wow, that's a huge amount of volume. And we've come on up. It is large move here, a little bit smaller. So it wants to maybe pull back a little bit in the short term, but it's highly dependent on uranium prices. So I don't want anybody to just sell out of it to be like, well, this thing's going to pull back for sure. It may or may not. So I'd be looking at these things to accumulate over time and just hold on because the opportunities are so large. Again, we've got this bowl-shaped pattern forming, which is it's already quite a bit up there, but don't rule out a little bit of a pullback. Looking at some of my other videos in terms of symmetry. Baseload, we've got a nice big move higher. and it musters these sideways pullbacks. But this thing, it's looking better. What I'd like to see is this thing, it's probably just going to like fizzle out and have the buyers start to equal the sellers, which means it's going to contract down and maybe go sideways before it pops higher. Here is Sky Harbor Resources. I do like this one. It's still in its downtrend, weird enough. But here's the downtrend. Big cycle moves up and down. I would say this is a double bottom. We're probably going to break this downtrend line, and then we're off to the races. So it's right there at the trend line. This is a weekly chart, so it's a big trend line, and it's going to take some energy to break through it. Obviously, we got larger volume accumulating it, so it does look pretty good. Now, here's a really interesting one, Purepoint Uranium Group. And I drew these in here just saying, like, look, this is the momentum coming down, and the momentum is slowing. That rate of change is flattening out. And we broke to the upside here, signaling that I think, and remember, this is the downtrend line that it broke to the upside, signaling that we have a momentum. We have a change. We've got volume stepping in here, buying the living heck out of this thing. Look at this thing go up, the volume. So what I'm looking for is this thing's probably going to chop sideways and up as this momentum has really gotten a lot less steep. So it's looking pretty good in my opinion, Purepoint Uranium. This is zoomed in on Purepoint. We got the 50-day crossing the 200-day. This is a daily. So it's coming back to its 50-day, and it's looking like it's creating an uptrend. You know, we've got some good volume down here. So everything's looking positive for Purepoint Uranium. Now, Blue Sky, this is another interesting one. And again, I'm looking at momentum. I'm looking at, if you were to chart this as a graph, and this was your rate of change was quite steep here. And then your rate of change became less and less. And the pullbacks the rate of change is not only less, but the duration of these pullbacks are also less, which means I think we are rotating and turning into an uptrend. And we just came up, we pulled out and broke out of this downtrend here. We're coming on up. Again, this is Blue Sky Uranium. We've got lots of volume down here. People are accumulating it. So I think this is going to end up maybe doing something quite large, or maybe it's going to mimic this momentum change where it comes up, maybe pulls back a little bit, and then comes back up. So I think this looks great for a very long-term hold. If you guys are looking at these things from a day-to-day basis, yes, this thing's going to be volatile. They're all going to be really volatile. And here it is on a day-to-day basis. We got the 50-day crossing the 200-day. We've got volume stepping in, buying it. We've got larger up days, and the pullbacks are muted sideways. All of this, to me, looks very constructive for a move higher. Now, will this thing just rocket higher? I don't know. But the momentum is shifting. I think we're at bottoms here. This is where I like to accumulate. This is where I start dumping money in, accumulating, because the ratio is cheap. The momentum is changing. These look like bottoms to me. So I would be a buyer. Fission Uranium. Again, it's very rare to see, well, it's not rare. It's rare to participate in bottoms like these. We've got all of these charts signaling that the momentum is changing. They've gone from downtrends to either flat or coming back up. So when you look at bottoms, they usually have these large punches, like an initial surge higher. And you can see that, I'm just going to go back here, on like UUUU. This is your initial surge higher. Like, hey, the buyers are here, wake up. And this may pull back some, but the move up is going to be a nice little move, and then you might get a little bit of a pullback, and then you're going to get this big surge higher again, and then a little bit of a pullback, and that's just how these markets kind of work. It's just like coming back down. You come back down, you get these surge a little higher, come back down, surge higher, but the momentum is changing. So I would suspect that the surges higher are going to be much larger than the pullbacks, and pullbacks should be seen as buying opportunities. And you can see these initial surges in some of these companies, which is great. It's a bottoming process. And you can see kind of this initial surge here. It's like, boom, pops up higher. And we still have to break kind of here to get a nice, good uptrend move. So we are still very early in these moves, which is great to participate in if you're a patient investor. So that's fission here. We broke the downtrend line. This is a weekly chart. And we're stepping in. We got volume. We broke through it. We back tested. I like buying on these back tests. I think it's a good spot. GoviX Uranium. And if you look at this, we've kind of got a lead in the front. We got a lead in the front. We have a nice big cup and handle pattern forming, I think. So I think this is probably at the bottom of the handle pattern or very close, somewhere in here. And again, I like buying kind of on the early stages. So I would be buying down here. That's me. I like GoviX Uranium. I know a lot of people, I know they rely very heavily on fundamental analysis. I'm looking at the technicals here. These all look fantastic. The whole sector. So if the sector moves up, I think money's just going to indiscriminately kind of pour into this sector and buy everything up. The opportunity here is extremely large. You're not going to see these type of opportunities often in your lifetime or in my lifetime, in anyone's lifetime. So what I do is I like to buy, I hang on when these ratios are so stinking cheap, and I just wait and wait. And I continue to cost average in if you get opportunities like this when they're down here to just accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. I'm not looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4-year return. I'm looking for 10-year, 15, 20-year return, where some of these I might be holding them in retirement still if the fundamentals look very strong. We could be coming up on a commodity super cycle where we've got inflation behind us. We've got the demographics from the millennials buying homes, which is inflationary. Their spending habits are going to be they're going to be different. They're going to be having kids. They're going to be spending more. They're going to be in their peak making and spending years. So I think that the velocity is going to kick up. This is a commodity. And when you have a cheap valuation, as cheap as it is, and you've got all the market conditions saying that this is going to rotate and money's going to come into these sectors, I see this as one of the best buying opportunities I've ever seen. So oil, uranium, these energy sectors, I mean, this is once in a lifetime, I think, for me, because I'm not going to see this again probably. Or if I am, I'm going to be very, very, very old, probably 60, 70, 80 years old, teaching my kids how to invest in uranium. So this is the opportunity. It's here. I'm picking them off. I'm cost averaging in. Remember, this is not financial advice. You're going to have to do your own due diligence here. But what I'm doing is I'm purchasing these things because of the opportunity that I see coming up in the next decade or so. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for listening. This is Finding Value.